"Dad, why is it always about Isaac?" I asked, my voice shaking as I stood in the living room, staring at the man who was supposed to love us all the same. He didn't even look up from his phone, just muttered something about how Isaac had a big game coming up. That was the moment I knew I'd had enough. "My name is Avery, and I'm 22 years old. Growing up in our family was like living in the shadow of a golden child, my older brother Isaac, who's 25. Isaac was the star athlete, the charming son, the one who could do no wrong. I'm not saying he's a bad person, Isaac's actually pretty decent when he's not soaking up all the attention. He's driven, confident, and has this easygoing charm that makes people gravitate toward him. But his success came at a cost, and I was the one paying it. Our dad was the main problem. He's a high school football coach, the kind of guy who lives for Friday night games and wears team jerseys even on weekends. He's intense, stubborn, and has a one-track mind when it comes to sports. Isaac was his pride and joy, the quarterback who led the team to state championships. Dad would spend hours analyzing game footage with him, driving him to extra practices, and bragging about him to anyone who'd listen. Meanwhile, I was lucky if he remembered I had a choir concert or a debate tournament. Mom was different. She's warm but quiet, always trying to keep the peace. She'd apologize for Dad's behavior, saying he didn't mean to play favorites, but her words never fixed the hurt. She's a nurse, so she worked long hours and wasn't always around to balance things out. Then there's my younger brother, Hunter, who's 17. Hunter's the laid-back one, always cracking jokes to lighten the mood, but he's also fiercely protective of me. He saw how Dad's favoritism stung, and he'd try to cheer me up, even if he didn't always know how. The favoritism wasn't just about attention, it was about resources, opportunities, and even love. When Isaac needed new cleats or a private coach, Dad made it happen, no questions asked. When I wanted to go to a summer program for young writers, Dad said we couldn't afford it. Isaac got a used car for his 16th birthday, I got a lecture about responsibility and a bus pass. It wasn't about the stuff itself, it was the message. Isaac mattered more. By the time I was in high school, I was done trying to win Dad's approval. I threw myself into my own world, writing, debate, and music. I was good at it, too. I won awards, got scholarships, and built a life I was proud of. But no matter what I did, it never seemed to register with Dad. That's when the rebellion started. It wasn't anything crazy at first, just small acts of defiance. I'd skip family dinners when Isaac was the center of attention. I'd roll my eyes when Dad went on about Isaac's latest game. But the more Dad ignored me, the louder I got. The real trouble started when I was 20, during my junior year of college. I was home for the summer, and Isaac had just graduated with a business degree. Dad was obsessed with helping him land a job, even pulling strings with his old football buddies. One night, I overheard Dad telling Mom he was dipping into their savings to help Isaac buy a condo near his new job. I was floored. That was the same savings they'd said wasn't available when I needed help with tuition. I confronted Dad the next day. "How is this fair?" I asked, my hands clenched. "You're giving Isaac everything, and I'm scraping by with student loans." Dad brushed me off, saying Isaac needed the help to get established and that I'd figure it out because I was smart. That was the breaking point. I wasn't just hurt anymore, I was angry. That's when the bigger rebellion kicked in. I stopped coming home for holidays unless I had to. I started posting on social media about my accomplishments, not to brag, but to make sure Dad saw what I was doing without him. I even got a tattoo, a small quill pen on my wrist, symbolizing my love for writing. Dad hated it, saying it was trashy, but I didn't care. It felt good to take control of something, to claim a piece of myself he couldn't touch. But rebellion came with a price. My relationship with Dad was barely hanging on, and Mom was stuck in the middle, trying to keep us from falling apart completely. Hunter was the only one who really got it. He'd text me late at night, saying things like, "You're killing it, Avery. Don't let dad make you feel small. His support kept me going, but it didn't fix the hole in our family. Then came the other problem, my best friend, Giana. She's 23, bold, and unapologetic. Giana's the kind of person who says what everyone else is thinking. She'd been my rock through college, always hyping me up and pushing me to stand up for myself. But she had her own issues, especially with boundaries. Giana thought I should cut dad off completely, and she wasn't shy about saying it. He's toxic, Avery, she'd say. You don't owe him anything. Her advice came from a good place, but it made things complicated. I loved my family, even with all the mess, and I wasn't ready to burn that bridge. Giana's influence started to show in ways I didn't expect. She'd encourage me to call dad out in front of the family, which felt good in the moment but always left me guilty afterward. Once, at a family barbecue, she straight up told dad he was a terrible father for ignoring me and Hunter. It was awkward, and Isaac, who usually stayed out of the drama, got defensive, saying I was making a big deal out of nothing. That night, Mom pulled me aside and begged me to stop escalating things. I know it's not fair, she said, but this is tearing us apart. The tension with Giana wasn't the only issue. Another problem was brewing with Isaac. He wasn't the villain dad made him out to be, but he wasn't innocent either. He'd started to lean into the favoritism, acting entitled in ways that grated on me. He'd show up late to family events, expecting everyone to revolve around him. He'd borrow money from Mom without paying it back, knowing dad would cover it. Worst of all, he stopped trying to connect with me. We used to be close, late-night talks, shared jokes, but now he was too busy being dad's golden boy. One day, I found out Isaac had been offered a job I'd applied for, too. It was a marketing role at a local firm, perfect for my writing skills. I'd poured my heart into the application, but Isaac got the call because dad knew the hiring manager. When I confronted Isaac, he shrugged and said, I didn't ask dad to do that. It just happened. That was when I realized Isaac wasn't just benefiting from dad's favoritism, he was complicit in it. I was done playing nice. I decided to fight back, but not by yelling or storming out. I wanted to be smart about it, to take control of my life in a way that didn't just hurt dad but lifted me up. My plan had 3 parts: build my own success, set boundaries with dad, and repair what I could with Isaac. First, I doubled down on my career. I was studying journalism and had a part-time gig at a local paper. I pitched bigger stories, networked like crazy, and landed a freelance contract with a regional magazine. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid better than my old job, and it got my name out there. I also started a blog where I wrote about family dynamics and favoritism, sharing my story without naming names. It took off, and people reached out, saying they'd been through the same thing. The blog wasn't just cathartic, it gave me a platform and a purpose. Next, I set boundaries with dad. I wrote him a letter, laying it all out, how his favoritism hurt me, how I wasn't asking for his approval anymore, but I wanted a relationship based on mutual respect. I told him I wouldn't attend family events where Isaac was the sole focus, and I'd only engage if he made an effort to know me. It was terrifying to send, but it felt like reclaiming my voice. Dad didn't respond right away, but a week later, he called. His voice was gruff, but he said, I didn't realize it was this bad. I'm not perfect, Avery, but I'll try. It wasn't a fairy tale fix, but it was a start. Fixing things with Isaac was harder. I invited him for coffee, just the 2 of us. I told him I didn't blame him for dad's actions, but his silence and entitlement hurt. To my surprise, he listened. I didn't see it, he admitted. I was so caught up in my own stuff. I'm sorry, Avery. He promised to do better, and while I didn't fully trust him yet, we started texting more, sharing small updates. It wasn't like the old days, but it was progress. Giana was the wild card. I loved her, but I had to draw a line. I told her I appreciated her support but needed to handle my family my way. She wasn't thrilled, but she backed off, and our friendship stayed intact. Hunter, meanwhile, became my biggest cheerleader. He'd read my blog posts and send me memes to make me laugh. He even stood up to Dad once, saying, "Avery's doing amazing things. You should pay attention." One afternoon, during that tense summer when I was 20, I found myself digging through old boxes in the garage, looking for some of my high school journals. I stumbled across a photo from when I was 10, standing next to Isaac at a family picnic. We were both grinning, holding popsicles, our faces sticky and carefree. Dad was in the background, laughing with Mom, his arm around her. Staring at that photo, I felt a lump in my throat. When did things change? When did Dad decide Isaac was the only one worth his time? I sat there on the dusty garage floor, tears blurring the image, wondering if I'd ever get that version of our family back. That moment stuck with me, fueling my resolve to fight for my place, not just to spite Dad, but to honor the little girl in that photo who deserved better. A few weeks after finding the photo, I had an unexpected run-in at the local coffee shop. I was working on an article when a woman named Lana, who looked about 30, approached me. She said she'd read my blog and recognized me from the profile picture. "Your posts about your dad hit home," she said, her voice soft but steady. "My mom favored my sister, and I'm still figuring out how to heal." We talked for almost an hour, and she shared how she'd learned to set boundaries without cutting her family off completely. Her story wasn't a magic fix, but it gave me a spark of hope. If Lana could find balance, maybe I could too. I jotted down her advice in my notebook, feeling a little less alone in my fight. As my blog gained traction, I started getting emails from strangers, people who felt invisible in their own families. One message, from a teenager named Sarah, hit me hard. She wrote about how her parents always praised her older brother, leaving her feeling like she was never enough. I spent an hour crafting a response, sharing my story and encouraging her to find her own voice. Helping Sarah felt like helping the younger version of myself, and it made me realize my rebellion wasn't just about me anymore. My words were reaching people, building a community of sorts. I even started hosting small virtual meetups for readers, where we'd talk about navigating family dynamics. Those conversations became a lifeline, reminding me that my pain had a purpose. The holidays that year were a test of my new boundaries. Christmas was always a big deal at our house, with Mom's famous gingerbread cookies and Dad's loud football debates. But it was also prime time for Isaac to shine. Dad would parade him around, boasting about his job or his latest pickup game. This time, I told Mom I'd only come for Christmas Eve if Dad agreed to keep things balanced. To my surprise, he did try. He asked me about my blog during dinner, and though it felt forced, it was something. Still, when Isaac started talking about his new condo, I caught Dad's eyes lighting up in a way they never did for me. I excused myself to help Mom in the kitchen, swallowing the familiar sting. Hunter followed me, whispering, "You're doing great, Avery. Don't let him get to you." His words were a small anchor, grounding me through the night. By the end of that year, my life looked different. My freelance work was steady, and I'd paid off a chunk of my student loans. Dad was making an effort, small things, like asking about my articles or showing up to a reading I did at a local bookstore. Isaac and I were slowly rebuilding our bond, and Mom said she was proud of how I'd handled everything. I wasn't just surviving anymore, I was thriving. Looking back, I see now that rebellion wasn't just about defiance. It was about finding my worth, even when the people I loved most couldn't see it. I learned to forgive Dad, not because he deserved it, but because holding on to anger was like carrying a weight I didn't need. I'm still learning how to balance love and boundaries, but I'm stronger for it. So, here's where I need your help. I feel like I've found my footing, but I'm not sure if I've handled this the best way. Should I push Dad harder to make up for the past, or keep things steady and let him figure it out? Have you been through something like this? What worked for you? I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Appreciate you watching. Give it a like, hit subscribe, and catch more drama next time.